Yeah, my name is Michael Fenner, the actor, and the character I played was Jeff Johnson. Well, I went for an audition. I went to read for the part and was lucky enough to get it. Obviously sometimes this doesn't happen, but I was lucky in this particular instance. So I auditioned for it and got the role. Yeah, so my first episode, Series 4, Episode 4, was great. We actually went on location to a retained fire station out in Kent. And all the permanent casts were already there. And I was kind of nervous, like Jeff Johnson is at meeting the London boys. But they were all really lovely, Sean and the mob. I remember having tea with them before as we were setting up, and they were really welcoming. So yeah, it was really nice. But in a way, it was kind of like Jeff getting to know the full-time fireman, as it were, from London. So it was good practice. The barn fire stunt, yeah. Well, I tell you what I remember was it wasn't a long speech, but I had quite a lot to say, being in charge of the retained crew. And then when the London boys turn up, I kind of give this, you go over there, what we want to do is this, that and the other. And the director said, don't make a mistake, because we're actually going to set fire to the false barn. It was kind of bolts of wood. And they'd set it up really carefully so it burned fairly quickly. But obviously, having been told, don't make a mistake, I felt so under pressure that I do remember my first take. I just went, blah, 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 and they went, can't put it out. So they had to then put it out, and of course I felt so stupid. And then on take two, I just seen a replay. I haven't seen it for years, and I just looked like so scared when the actual final shot that we used goes in. But actually, it wasn't quite as bad as I thought. But yeah, that was. That was a bit of a shock, I have to say. No, that was about the only one. As far as I remember, the rest of the time it went okay. But that was, I just really did feel under pressure, and there was no time for a rehearsal really. So it was kind of the pressure, and I think we'd done a couple of the welcome in the fire station first, so it wasn't exactly the first scene, but I didn't feel quite so under pressure actually when I was just chatting to the guys as they arrived, the welcome scene. So no, I think it went fairly smoothly as far as I remember. Yeah, so the actual welcome scene was like a real fire station, and actually I got to talk to the real retained guys and just ask them a little bit about what their job was like, and they took great delight in showing me pictures on the walls of fatalities. And of course they said, come and have a look at this, and I innocently went over to say, oh yeah, what's that? And I can't quite describe what I saw, but they were pictures that you would never see in the newspapers. They would obviously be blurred out of not very nice things. But they thought it was really funny. And of course, this is the way that people get initiated in the fire brigade. I mean, it's harmless. Obviously, I was shocked, which they took great delight in seeing. And I must just tell you a little story. I voluntarily went to do a little bit of training at the old Lambeth main headquarters on the River Thames, the London Fire Brigade, whatever it was, headquarters, and they didn't tell me how slippery the pole was. They said, all you have to do is jump down there, and I grabbed hold of the pole, and before I knew it, I'd hit the deck really hard. And again, they thought that was the funniest thing, and I think that happens with new recruits. They kind of, there's an initiation that goes on, so, but it was fun, and it was meant in good part as well. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's a long time ago. What I do remember was that Sean had done some work at some theatres that I'd worked at, and we kind of knew a lot of actors in common, and not just Sean, but the rest of the guys were really, really nice. Everybody was so welcoming, and in a way he was kind of like his role. He looked after me and made me feel at ease, and I particularly remember that he was like especially nice, and we had a lot of mates in common in at the National Theatre actually, where I was appearing at the time. So I had a little break, or at least I just appeared there, I should say. So yeah, he was particularly friendly. Well, yes, I do. Memories of working on that first episode, series 4, episode 4. I was talking to Samantha, who played the love interest. I was obviously her love interest, and she kind of delivered a bit of a bombshell when we were off screen almost immediately. I was kind of trying to get to know her so that our characters would get on better, because obviously complete stranger, so I wanted to sort of, a bit like Jeff, get to know her a little better, and she dropped a bit of a bombshell. She'd told the producers that she didn't see her character as a strong, independent woman having a love interest, so that she'd asked the producers to write Jeff Johnson out of the whole series. So I was probably going to be in only a few more, and indeed that's what happened. Whether this was the case, I have no idea. She didn't say it with any kind of malice. She was not horrible about it. She just said, I don't think that's quite right for the character. And sure enough, I had a lovely time filming the scenes with her, and she was very lovely. But I found myself obviously only doing 4 episodes, and this may well have been the case. Well, yes, I do. We went somewhere. This is when I'm now talking about the rock climbing in episode 6. The location was really beautiful, and I'd been to it's kind of where Kent joins Sussex. I can't remember the exact location, but I think there is quite a sort of escarpment, which isn't too taxing, but where a lot of beginners rock climbers go. And as I remember, it was, it wasn't a kind of small escarpment, but it was Samantha that had to do the climbing, and I was supposed to be this is my real job as a retained fireman. They're always part-time, of course, and my real job was leading this outward bound centre, and I was teaching her to rock climb. So my job was reasonably easy. I just had to stand at the bottom with a kind of a rope, that obviously I'd catch her if she fell, trying to look professional. No idea what I was doing really, and kind of saying, yeah, just put your foot there, that's it, so and so and so forth. And we had a good laugh. I mean, but luckily for me, I was on the ground because I'm not very good with heights. So I was just kind of giving her instructions from the base of the rock face. But it was good fun. It was a lovely place as well. What do I remember about the charity pram race in episode 8? Well, I do remember I was in drag. I was dressed as a nurse. I've actually just seen it back for the first time since I did it. And I have to say, I didn't remember having quite so much makeup on. But it went very well. There was a lot of kind of running with the pram, doing all the kind of charity pram race acting. And then my character is told by Samantha's character that she doesn't quite see the relationship in the same way that I do. That I sort of see it as quite a sort of leading quite an active life and inviting her rock climbing, etc., etc. And this was clearly, which obviously Jeff didn't know, was the dumping scene. And I've just seen it back, and my face really hurt when she says, I don't want to go rock climbing, I don't want to do all these boys' own stuff, I don't know who you imagine would like that, blah, blah, blah. And my character's like, oh, okay, I'm really sorry about that. And Jeff just looks really, really upset. And that was the end of their relationship, sadly. Oh, no, obviously what happens, that the kind of schedule is done really carefully. And so we're only there for the scenes that we're required for on the day. They work this out really carefully. So, for instance, and as far as I remember, I didn't have any HQ scenes. So all my scenes were on location. So there's the rock climbing, there's the charity pram race, which I think was in Jacobs Street, or in or near Jacobs Street, which is near Tower Bridge. And so I would just turn up on the day, and then they would carefully schedule it so that all those scenes were done on that particular day. The rock climbing too was a kind of discrete little package of one scene, as was the shout that in episode 4, where we did the barn fire. All the scenes at the retained station were done on the same day. I think we did that in the morning, and then we did the actual burning down of the false barn in the afternoon. So they did this scheduling, very carefully, so that my character only turned up, as far as I remember, for a day at a time on each episode. It's really funny, costume and makeup. I don't remember too much about it, and having just seen the charity pram race, I'd actually forgotten all about that, probably because Jeff was pretty traumatised by it. But the costume makeup was, obviously the case of uniform for actually fighting the fire, and I was just in kind of sporty t-shirts and tracksuits for Jeff's other kind of pursuits, like the rock climbing. And so it was all very kind of realistic and very, very, makeup apart from the drag makeup, the charity pram race. Makeup was just very slight and very subtle. I think that the barn fire, even though I messed up the first take, was obviously actually really exciting, and that day was great because we had travelled down to Kent. Obviously to be involved in what was effectively a stunt was actually really, really good and quite tricky. So, it was a pretty involved piece of filming, and obviously that gave a lot of satisfaction actually doing that in the end reasonably well. No, it is quite a long time ago. All I do remember is that I had a great time. Everybody was really, really nice. All the regulars were very welcoming, and obviously sometimes this doesn't necessarily happen, but they went out of their way to talk to me and sort of include me and have a cup of tea with me. And so I just have really good memories of working on it, and it was a really, really lovely kind of family atmosphere, and I really enjoyed it. Would I have liked to have been in it longer? Yes, I would. I was obviously when you join a long-running series, I did 2 episodes of EastEnders, and when you join, you have no idea because it hasn't been written yet. Or at least we don't know anything about what the future holds. So you kind of hope, because obviously London's Burning was immensely successful and a great job, to be in the series. So I was hoping that it would last, and obviously with the beginning of this relationship with Samantha's character, I was hoping that it would become like you saw the home life of all the other characters, that Samantha and I would kind of set up together, and there would be me popping in every now and then doing rock climbing scenes and what have you, but sadly that didn't happen. It's just one of those things. Yes, if London's Burning today would be really interesting. Obviously it would be a little different. I wouldn't actually know what the kind of modern bits of firefighting equipment were. But I think it would go really well. I think they should bring it back with Jeff Johnson in the lead role, of course. But it would be great because it would be very different. They could even bring it back as London's Burning, because I think I speak to people and say, "Oh, I remember that was a great series," and so maybe note to the producers, bring it back. So I'm still an actor, and this is an answer to the question about what I'm doing now. The last TV I did was Doctors, the lunchtime soap, and that was the last television I did. I've been in things like My Family, Footballers' Wives, EastEnders. Inspector Morse and so on. But recently, theatre. And because obviously at this very moment here in July 22, we've only just got over COVID, so a lot of the stuff hasn't really got going again. But I did do a Christmas show down in Cornwall at the Hall for Cornwall. I was Baron Hardup in Cinderella, so I'm still very much acting. And what I do in between is I'm also a landscape painter. So I kind of earn a bit of a crust, and it's a satisfying job, selling paintings in between. But also I teach at Shakespeare's Globe. So I've been at the Globe 24 years. They're 25 years old. I arrived in the second season. So I've been teaching there, doing workshops and tours of the building with little ones from sort of 6 years old right the way through to teachers retraining, so adult education, and everything in between. And that is, of course, a really lovely job to have, because it teaches me a lot about Shakespeare, and obviously it's a great job to do in between my acting and alongside my painting. Oh, and of course nothing upcoming actually, sadly, in terms of the acting, but I'm obviously hoping to do stuff, fingers crossed. Okay, well thank you, Andrew. Yeah, been a pleasure.